All right. Testing. Sound check. One, two, three. Sound check. It's only because sometimes it seems like these things have started with no sound, so I just want to be sure. I have the microphone plugged in tonight. I'm not using the shirt. I'm sorry. I'm not using the collar mic this time. Hello, and hi there. Welcome, everybody, once again to Cast Iron Wednesday. This, of course, is a long running tradition that a number of YouTube channels have been doing for, well, at least the past several years or so. And that certainly includes my channel. We do a cast iron video on Wednesdays as an excuse to, well, have some fun playing with our cast iron. As you can see from this lovely cast iron pot that we have here in the video right now. And yes, this is live. This is not a photo. And this is what we're going to be playing with tonight. So thank you to everybody who has been kind enough to show up here this evening. We are going to be doing a nice simple stew here. And actually, in a way, I do have to apologize. And I'll explain that in a moment once we get our welcomes out of the way, because it is very important to welcome all the folks here who have been kind enough to visit this channel tonight. So hello to everybody, to folks new and old. Hello to James456Z. And hello to Rick Stumbow and Greg Hart. And hello to Rocket Caver. And hello to Brody YYC. Just got home from another 26-mile walk. Wow, you're really putting it on, that's for sure. And hello, Fuzzfork8 and Ronald Coward. And hello, Val's Black Cat's Rule, who I understand is apparently cooking on an electric stove. And you have my condolences for that. I cooked on an electric stove for like about 12 years before I finally moved to my current home and was finally able to upgrade to gas. Hello as well to everybody who is kind enough to be browsing here tonight, where we are. And hello to Cynthia Wesley, taking out the trash, which is not a bad thing. And hello to everybody here once again in the dog days of summer, as July is not quite over yet. We've had some not exactly cool weather, but the temperature has not been scorching for the last couple of days. However, the scorching weather is about to return tomorrow. So, yes, indeed, we are still in the midst of summer. And now, I guess we get down to it, where, as I said before, I've got an apology to everybody tonight, in that as promised, we're going to be making a Jamaican stew tonight, which is a nice, simple chicken stew, stewed in vegetables and Jamaican style spices. There's nothing difficult to that. And well, the reason why I have to apologize is because, as I mentioned, I made this at the request of my friend, once again, Miss Mo, who I introduced everybody to last week. The only thing I like about an electric stove is it has the broiler in the oven. Well, there is that. No denying that. And so the part I have to apologize for is Miss Mo insisted on doing all of the prep work in advance, which means that quite literally all I have to do is dump this into the pot and add the water, and we'll be able to stew this for the next hour or so, and it's going to be done. So yeah, I had been planning on doing all the prep work here on for your entertainment, but she insisted on doing it already. So that's where we are. But nonetheless, let's get a look again here at one of my favorite kitchen pots, this extremely heavy South African made cast iron potjie pot, which I've used in quite a few videos here. And this is a pot again. It is a number 3 size cast iron pot, which, according to the size they use again in South Africa, that actually makes this about 8 liters in capacity, which is making really, really useful size for a stew pot here. And so all I really have to do, as I said, is to dump in the chicken. So let's go ahead and do that. Fortunately, at least if nothing else, I can show you what we're going to be making tonight. So hopefully this will whet your appetites. Here we are. As I said, she insisted on doing everything already. Preparing some 3 kinds of peppers, browning up the chicken using Jamaican browning sauce, as well as a little bit of extreme spice in this. This has, oh, excuse me, on top of everything else, I have a dog I have to let in. Excuse me, please. There we go. Yes, I did say there's a dog here, but he's very small, and he is already heading into the other room. Anyway, as I mentioned, we are again. This is really no more than just browned chicken used with browning sauce, as well as some thyme, three kinds of pepper, some onions, and there is also a Scotch bonnet pepper. Oops, actually, I better move that microphone over here. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, there is a Scotch bonnet pepper mixed in with this too. So this is definitely going to have some kick to it. Folks who know about Scotch bonnet peppers know that that is one of the extremely hot peppers. So yeah, we are definitely going Jamaican tonight. That's for sure. All right, and hello, VCBR. Mrs. R says hi. All good here on my desk overlooking the pond, 76 degrees. Oh, you're doing pretty good. All right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, what can I say? I mean, it's like she insisted on doing the prep work herself, so it's not like I could really say no to that. So, in we go. Don't want to spill it, of course. Besides, the nice thing about a stew is, especially in this weather, is we can pretty much set it and forget it. In that, even though I've got a nice hot flame over the stove here, it's only a matter now of really just waiting. Although I do have to add a little bit more liquid to the pot. And that's really just no more than throwing in some water. This is, yeah, stews are really pretty much a no-brainer here. And there we go. As mentioned, this is an 8-liter pot, and so this thing is at least at the halfway mark. So we're definitely going to have quite a bit of stew when this is done. So let's cover this up. Folks are, of course, feel free to ask questions or answer questions in regards to cast iron here. That's what we are here for on this channel tonight, and that includes questions about a South African potjie, or indeed just really cooking stews in your own cast iron, whether it's a Dutch oven or even a cast iron skillet or whatever pans you might have in your kitchen. We do encourage everybody here to, as I said, have a conversation just regarding any subject related to cast iron that you would like. Is that pot hard to clean and season? As a matter of fact, not really. The hardest part about this is that it is very heavy. I mean, this thing is incredibly heavy. I'd have to say this 8-liter pot probably weighs probably close to 20 pounds or so. So it's really a beast to lift, and that's when it's empty. But it's got a nice wide opening here, so it's really not hard to get inside. There is actually a bit of a lip around the upper rim, and that part may does require a little bit of maneuvering to actually get clean. But other than that, it's really no more difficult than any other Dutch oven to clean. So in that respect, it's really not that difficult. I mean, these South African potjies here are quite popular, largely because of their design, because they still have a design that makes it look like the old-fashioned medieval cauldrons, and that gives it a lot of appeal as well. Although, really, there's not really much of a difference between this and a typical Dutch oven. Anything you can do in this potjie, you could certainly do in a cast iron Dutch oven. I would say that because of the shape of this is probably a little bit more deep than a typical Dutch oven, and that's not a bad thing in itself. That especially makes it good for deep frying or for stews, for that matter. Excuse me. The bale looks a little rusty. Not actually. This is not real, but it is hot. So I'll have to use it this way. No, it's actually not rusty. It is, though, unfortunately stained. If I wanted to, I could take some good old barkeeper's friend and just simply scrape this extra residue here off of the bale. But this is actually not rust, I'm pleased to say. It is a very thick though. It's thicker, definitely, than the type of bail you would have on a USA-made cast iron pot. This is a best duty potjie, which over the past several years or so, casually at least, the folks here have done a little bit of research into the history of this, so we have a good idea about the make of this particular pot. Namely, number one, this is in fact Asian made. It was made in Asia and it was then imported into South Africa for sale, where it was then in turn imported to the United States. And that's when I bought it off of Amazon from the importer. Best Duty was one of a few cast iron foundries and manufacturers that originally did make their own cast iron in the earlier days, and it's estimated that probably throughout the 1980s or so, in fact, they did make their own cast iron there in South Africa. And at least one of the folks on this channel was lucky enough to score one of these with the Best Duty logo, as well as a logo that said Made in South Africa. However, after several years or so, we're probably talking like about the 1990s or so, Best Duty began probably for cost-cutting reasons. They began acquiring their cast iron from an importer that imported these from Asia, and then finally, like maybe around the 2000s or so, they were completely bought out by the other company. And so as a result, at least since the 2000s or so, again, the all of the Best Duty brand cast iron has in fact been made in Asia. But as far physically, at least, there is nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is something that's been said many, many times, and I'll certainly continue to state that, namely that Asian-made cast iron is just fine for cooking. There's absolutely nothing wrong with cooking in an Asian-made cast iron pot or pan, for that matter. The real difficulty that folks have with cast iron made in China and Asia is, in fact, the politics. And that is something in general that I don't like getting into because it gets really messy and really complicated. There are, of course, a number of folks there who simply do not want to use anything made in China. And that, of course, is your choice. I certainly am not going to force this on anybody. But I will only say just that. Even if you don't like cast iron made in Asia, it's still fine for cooking. And in this case, anyway, as I said, I bought this from a South African importer. So my money technically did not go to China. It went to, as I said, the importer who imported this from South Africa. And that's about as far as I'm going to get as far as a political discussion is concerned here. All right. Fuzz 4K. All of us like cast iron in almost any form when it comes to cooking. Yes, that is certainly true. And there are a number of arguments that I really am not interested in getting into. I have gotten into some arguments, but I'm not going to be getting into any of those tonight. That's for sure. Trying to figure out how to eat him. Oh, that sounds like we're having an interesting conversation here too. Huh. Okay. So, Cynthia, if you were in the woods without a beer, would they just be family? Cute. I've had extra animals. I had a couple of cans of tuna. It's too hot to cook. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. I can imagine I can imagine as well, honey badger, especially since you've got your family there. So I guess you probably just made a few tuna sandwiches, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. So at least I'm glad to be able to hold this live video tonight, which means you don't have to. Of course, you never did have to, but thank you very much for taking the time to do your live videos as well, which have indeed been a lot of fun. I know a lot of folks here have visited your channel as well, and that's certainly nothing wrong with that. Though I guess since you mentioned tuna, here's something you might want to try at some point when it's not so hot. Take your canned tuna and fry it before you actually make a sandwich or whatever out of it. Don't just simply use it out of the can. Just give it a quick fry in your cast iron, because you will find that fried canned tuna really has a completely different taste, and that taste, quite frankly, is wonderful. So give it a try and see what you think. I learned that myself when I went to a really fancy seafood restaurant and ordered their tuna fish sandwich. And that's just it. They actually used fried or otherwise cooked tuna in it, and it was wonderful. All right. This Canadian buys American cast iron because I'm not sure if there's any Canadian made cast iron anymore. To be honest, I don't think there is, unfortunately. Regrettably, cast iron production in both the United States and Canada is nowhere near what it used to be during the great old days. So, yes, it's true. We do have large cast iron here in the USA, but I don't think there's any counterpart to that in Canada, unfortunately. And there are, of course, a number of smaller elite cast iron makers in the United States, but they are really making their cast iron for a niche market. And I'm not sure when, if ever, these other companies, like Field and Stargazer and Butter Pat, not Butter Pat anymore, Yeti and Grizzly and all the rest of the or Finex and all the rest of those. I don't know if they will ever reach the point where they will be able to mass produce large numbers of cast iron pans for sale at places like Walmart. So, I mean, you can certainly order them online, and that's great. But the business model is completely different. So I've been fortunate enough to have obtained some cast iron from Stargazer and Field and Finex and even Solid Technics and the like. But again, this is not the type of stuff you could buy at Walmart. In South Africa, you could probably buy a Best Duty potjie just about anywhere. So maybe they have one advantage in that way. Canada, well, as you know, I mean, well, again, there is large cast iron available in Canada, but it is, since it's imported from the US, it is more expensive, unfortunately, which comes down to using Asian made cast iron. And that's where we go full circle. And like I said just a few minutes ago, that again, there's nothing wrong with using Asian made cast iron unless you object to it for political reasons. All right. I think Taiwan casts nice stuff, but not so much Chinese iron. Well, yeah, it does vary from case to case. I mean, for instance, I've got a huge cast iron pot made by Bayou Classic, which was in fact made in China and then imported into the U.S. Although they do have their own quality control standards. And I certainly really enjoy using that big pot. And in fact, I'm going to have to use it at some point before the summer ends, I think. Best Duty is now owned by LKs. Yes, that is from their website, and that's how I learned it as well. And their website will tell you exactly that, namely that LKs they started supplying cast iron to Best Duty for several years before they finally bought out the company altogether. And so now, in fact, yes, Best Duty is owned by LKs. All right. And yeah, I'm in Western New York. That's Val. Yeah, that's Val. That's right. Niagara region, just down the road from Niagara Falls. Oh, nice. Well, glad to see that. So, Christopher Rice and Val, I'd say you might be neighbors then. All right. I'm still looking for that. Um, okay, great grandfather was from Jamestown. Oh, yeah. Okay, they sell the Bayou Classic stuff here in the Bayou. It's nice stuff. Yeah, it is actually. And one thing I have to say about Bayou Classic and the other makers as well of Cajun cast iron, like Cajun Cooker or King Cooker or all of those. One thing is they make huge cast iron pots that are simply bigger than anything that the American cast iron manufacturers ever made. They just simply never made them that big. So there never was a 16 quart or a 20 quart cast iron, or even for that matter, getting into like 15-gallon cast iron pots available from American manufacturers. Well, technically, that's kind of not true. I mean, American manufacturers were making those big cauldrons up until maybe about the early 20th century or so. And those cauldrons can, of course, still be found all over the place even today. The manufacturers of those cauldrons are largely unknown, except for a rare case when they might actually have the manufacturer name on it. So, other than that, they're almost impossible to identify any particular manufacturer. They did make them, but they stopped making them almost 100 years ago, or just about 100 years ago now, which means that, yes, if you want a huge cast iron pot, you do have to go to somebody like Bayou Classic. My brother is a corporate attorney in Rochester, New York. Okay. Don't. Oh, and thank you very much, Val. Mark Sieber, second that thumbs up for Bayou Classic. Love the alligator logo. Yeah, I know. My Bayou Classic pot does not have the alligator logo on it, unfortunately. And once, sometime in the past few years, I forget when, I actually contacted the American importer for Bayou Classic and asked if I could buy a lid specifically with the alligator logo. They said they did not have them available. They do not sell the lids separately, unfortunately. So, well, that's just how it goes. All right. Um, my first Asian pan from 1973 has a smooth surface. Well, I would say so. You probably have like about 50 years of seasoning in it. So yeah, we're doing pretty. So yeah, definitely, I would say keep on using it. Let me see. So far, so good. This thing is just beginning to simmer at this point. I can see there are some bubbles in it. So we are not doing too badly right now. I could maybe even turn it up just a little bit and bring it to a boil. This is what I get, as I said, for letting my house guests do all the prep work in advance. Not that there's anything really wrong with that, because hey, that means I didn't have to do the work. So I'm actually thanking her for that. All right, dang YouTube, I can't see Corey. Okay. I have several pieces of Bioclassic 2 last week. Oh, that's interesting. So you just acquired some then, Cynthia. Okay, well, while we're waiting, though, if nothing else, I do have to actually prepare some rice. I think I did this last week too. So, in addition to making this stew in the potjie pot here, we are once again breaking out the Wagner Magnolite Dutch oven, which I've said many times now is my favorite rice cooker, and that at least is an excuse for us to do something other than just simply talk about cast iron. Let us once again make some rice. All right. And again, this is simply how I do it. There are probably at least 100 different ways to make rice, and just about all of them are correct. So what I do is, well, for starters, because I'm a measurement geek, here's 1 cup and here's 2 cups. This is jasmine rice, nonetheless. Got to wash off the rice. Oh yeah, and that's one other thing. I'm still not interested in getting an electric rice cooker, even though so many people say you can just simply set it and forget it. And one reason why is even with a rice cooker, you still have to wash the rice by hand. It won't wash the rice for you. So one way or another, we still have to wash the rice. But this is not difficult at all. And this weird thing is, again, something I taught myself on how to wash rice. Namely, as you can see, I'm running the water through the rice here and catching it in this pot here, this bowl underneath, largely because this saves some water. And conserving water is not a bad thing, especially in the summer. Just simply, mix the rice around with my hand, like maybe toss it about perhaps 10 or a dozen times or so. And that is number one. Dump the water and do it again. Typically 3, maybe 4 times is all we need to do to wash the rice. It only takes a couple of minutes to wash rice, and yet I know washing rice is still something of a chore. And I won't deny that either. However, it does need to be done. With jasmine rice, though, I have in fact made rice dishes without washing the rice. You can do that sometimes with jasmine rice. With other kinds of rice, such as basmati, which is probably my other favorite kind of rice, you definitely have to wash it every time. there is a lot more starch or whatever it is on basmati that if you cook it without washing it first, it tastes different. But even with jasmine rice, washing it definitely improves it, which is why that all of those recipes do say you do need to wash your rice. Interestingly enough, um, I was fortunate enough to introduce, again, my friend Miss Mo. I introduced her to Asian imported rice. You know, the kind that you buy in these huge sacks at Asian markets. The ones that have, that come in those big plastic sacks with those impossible strings that nobody can just simply unravel, even though there is a magic trick to doing it. And her family, when they actually tried this kind of jasmine rice, they loved it. I mean, up until then, they had just simply been buying Walmart rice. And here I have to say yet again, there's nothing wrong with buying Walmart rice. It's cheap, and it certainly does the job. But they found out that the Asian imported jasmine rice does actually taste better. And at this point, our rice is washed because, as you can see, you can actually see the rice in the water at this point. So we are good here. It's not 100% clear, but our rice is definitely washed. So let's get the pot over here. Do this carefully. One other thing about nice washed rice: no sticking. All right, so let's get that over. Now that we've done that, let's move this out of the way and go to the next step. I did 2 cups of rice, and to this, all I have to do is add 3 cups of water, and that's it. Notice it is not twice as much water as rice. That is another lesson that I learned over time. It is about a 2 to 3 ratio. 2 cups of rice and 3 cups of water. And there we go. So now that we've done that, let's get this back over to the stove. And I start by putting on the heat, and I can bring it to a boil uncovered. This, again, was a method that I learned that seems to work really good. And while we're waiting for the rice to come to a boil, it looks like our pot is coming to a boil, so I can probably turn this down to a simmer. Oh, this is definitely boiling, that's for sure. Ain't cast iron great? So all we do is turn this down now to like about 3 or so, and let it stew. All right. One of my favorite ways to cook rice is pilaf, and again, there's as I said, there's at least 100 ways to cook rice, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. And we like basmati the best. Okay. Oops, this is not quite centered. There we go. That looks a little better. The one I mentioned was an Xmas gift, and it came seasoned. It has a BSR FPB lid. Oh, really? That's interesting. Oh, I see. So you got yourself a cast iron pot as a present. Well, congratulations. Free cast iron is always a good thing, especially if, like you said, it is genuine vintage. So congratulations on your gift. That's for sure. I'm guessing that must have been a flat bottom pot then. Oh no, you're cooking with tap water. Yes, I am, Radagast. Obviously, that means I'm exposing myself to about 3,000 kinds of toxins, and I'm probably going to grow another limb and die of cancer in the next 7 days. Well, all I can say is I'm not dead yet. And I've made no secret of the fact that I have a lot of disdain for foodie conspiracy theories, a lot of which are conspiracy theories. There are some genuine concerns about food. There's no denying that, like the fact that, for instance, rice apparently contains arsenic. And that's another good reason to wash off the rice because that apparently greatly reduces the level of arsenic in the rice. But the level of arsenic in the rice is at not exactly a microscopic level, but it's low enough that in general it's not a concern unless you're eating nothing but rice 24/7. Then there's a potential that you might actually be able that you might end up building up arsenic. But again, the chance of that is not very great. That's why there have not been any general warnings or anything like that about feeding rice to children. The only thing they talk about feeding rice to children, of course, is the potential choking hazard with toddlers. William, I'm just about sick of looking and praying for a number seven skillet or pot to fit my Griswold lid. I'm about to give up hope. Hmm. One thing you might want to do that I've actually been. Oh, wait a second. To fit the Griswold lid, you already have a lid. Okay, I was going to suggest a glass lid, something that I've been getting into lately. But yeah, okay. Well, Cynthia Wesley, there is always the eBay route. Although, don't buy the first thing you see. The best I could say is just like the treasure hunt, have some patience, look through eBay fairly regularly, and maybe after some time, you might manage to stumble across a decent deal that you can afford. That's how I've been able to afford some things on eBay. We do, I mean, we've already had some videos where we browse eBay, and then of course there's Mudbrooker who regularly browses the Goodwill website as well. In that much of the stuff on there is overpriced, yes, but if you're lucky, every so often you could still find yourself a good deal on eBay. They're just very few and far between. Patience, yes, exactly. Love the cast iron I own. Well, tell us about your cast iron, Christopher Rice. I mean, even if you only have a couple of pieces, that's still something. So, I mean, that nothing to be ashamed about, and feel free to tell us about it. They won't be getting my 30 cents. Well, good luck on the treasure hunt, Cynthia. That's probably about the best I could say there. And besides, since you were able to acquire a couple of Bayou Classics last week, that does mean that, well, your cast iron treasure hunt has not been entirely fruitless. This also means, as you know, that it's entirely possible that someday, hopefully soon, you will find the number seven skillet that you're looking for. Dallas Black Cat's rule. I start rice uncovered when it comes to a boil, I cut the heat back and cover. Yes, and that's exactly how I'm doing it too. I'm checking this out. It has not yet come to a boil, but it looks like it will within about a minute or so. I cut the heat back while the rest of the meal is ready. Yeah, and that's exactly how I do it. How I do it as well. Once this rice comes to a boil, that's what I'm going to do. Cover it and turn it down to a simmer. Nothing difficult at all. And that's, yeah, I am so glad to have learned how to cook rice. I'm pretty sure I said this last week as well. And I seem to say this a lot, when I say there's nothing wrong with using things like minute rice or boil in a bag rice or other ingredients from Walmart or anything like that. Uh, and there is nothing wrong with that. But there are a couple of good reasons to learn how to cook rice, and I do believe it is coming to a boil right now. So let's do exactly that. Let's turn down the heat, cover it. Now we can just let it sit, and we are done. But anyway, what I'm saying is, again, there is nothing wrong with using Walmart ingredients and boil in a bag rice and minute rice or anything like that. There are those stupid foodie websites out there that really talk down to you and say, how dare you do things like using processed ingredients and stuff that isn't all natural and and not making everything from scratch. Well, welcome to the real world, dudes and dudettes. Because the fact is, a lot of us don't have the time or the resources to be able to do that. On the other hand, as I mentioned, it is really cooking rice. Learning how to cook rice is an essential skill for a couple of reasons. The number one reason, you save money, especially if you got yourself a decent family. I mean, a box of minute rice costs probably about the same as a much larger bag of uncooked rice. So there is a great reason right there to just simply practice cooking rice, and there you go. You, especially if you're on a budget. I think I will say that I know a couple of people, namely my, yeah, Miss Mo has her children who are just at the point where they are leaving the nest and going out on their own. Yeah, meaning that they're already past high school and they're entering college. And apparently, her son and her daughter are going to be getting an apartment together for the first time. So they're going to be learning a couple of life lessons. Number one would be shopping and eating on a budget. And that's why, at least as far as I know, their mom did do the right thing and they taught them how to cook, which is more, I'm sorry to say, than my family ever did for me. And I'm not really blaming my parents for that either. That really was just how we were raised. I mean, my parents really weren't, while they did cook regularly for us, I've told everybody about my mom and her chicken fetish, in that she could and often did cook chicken 7 days a week. It's like nothing in our family was really very fancy, and we always ate things like minute rice. We never learned how to boil rice, for instance. And that comes back to what I just mentioned, that cook again, learning to cook rice is an essential skill. And really, teach your kids how to cook rice, even if they think it's boring. Especially like now, as I mentioned, Miss Mo's kids are going to be sharing an apartment for the first time. They're definitely going to be very glad that they learned how to cook rice. Okay. I start rice uncovered. Oh, I see. That's the same thing right there. Okay. I just think it's so cute. Yeah, next to my hammered Dutch oven. Oh, nice. I have lots of modern Lodge cast iron, great users, and I love my modern Lodge cast iron. I've got quite a few modern Lodge cast iron pots myself. I have a few vintage Lodge, but most of my Lodge is in fact modern as well. Especially the Cracker Barrel skillets, excuse me, that I managed to acquire. Not to mention my Lodge 5 quart Dutch oven. I do have a vintage Lodge lid, and I'm glad about that. But I guess, even though I'm repeating a lot of stuff I know that I've said many times on this channel, but then again, there are folks who have been kind enough to visit this channel for the first time, and so they're still learning what this channel is about. Number one is I'm not interested in following food fads, and number two, I am not. I will admit that I do things with my cast iron that a lot of advice tells you not to do. Among which is I cook with my modern day Lodge cast iron, and I don't grind it down. Modern Lodge cast iron does indeed have a rough surface, which is no problem at all. You can cook with a modern day Lodge cast iron and still get a nonstick surface, and you can cook anything in modern Lodge cast iron. And Lodge is not paying me to say that either. I'm just speaking from experience. The very first cast iron skillet that I ever had, which I still have, is a modern Lodge cast iron skillet, and I'm very, very grateful to own it. And likewise, I know Rocket Caver and all the rest will say the same thing. Namely, that if you are just learning to cook in cast iron, the best advice I can give you is keep on cooking. Just keep on practicing and have fun cooking in your cast iron, and you will learn it all by yourself. Because if you go on the internet and ask any question at all about cast iron, you will get at least a dozen different answers, and probably at least 10 of them will be the right answer, too. There is no one single yes or no answer to really anything in regards to cooking or maintaining cast iron. This isn't mathematics. It's not like with math, there is only one answer that's right and everything else is wrong. With large cast iron, as I stated, I don't grind down my large cast iron. I use it just as is. Um, in some instances, I simply use it right out of the box, and I don't even season it additionally. Although I do add some additional seasoning as I cook. In other instances, I put it in the lye tank, and I have stripped it and then reseasoned it. I have several pans in soaking in the lye tank right now that pretty soon it'll be time to take those out and do some seasoning in the middle of summer in 90-degree heat. Yeah, I guess I think I actually mentioned something like that. If it's the middle of summer, it's 90 degrees out, and you still insist on seasoning cast iron in a 400 to 500 degree oven, you must have cast ironitis. All right. Oh yeah, hello, Bob LaForge. Yes, no, I remember you from X Day as well. Yeah, that was before I caught the cooking bug, actually, as it turned out, because sometime around the year 2010 or so, I suddenly joined another cult, and that was the cult of cast iron, something that I'm still very glad to be a member of. So not only am I a subgenius, I am also a foodie. So heaven forbid. All right. What kind of cauldron? Let's see what I missed here. If somebody's talking about a cauldron, well, I've been rambling on and on and on. I was fortunate in that my parents and grandparents were all good cooks and enjoyed doing so. Congratulations, Radagast. You were raised right. That's for sure. Mark, who did you say sold cauldrons? Oh, okay. Cauldrons, cast iron cauldrons. Okay. Cast iron cauldrons are actually pretty easy to find. You can usually find them at antique malls, antique fairs, and again on places like eBay. Not so much at yard sales, admittedly. I mean, it's extremely rare. You could find one at a yard sale or a flea market, but they're not as common there. The disadvantage of finding them, of course, at antique malls is that they are usually ridiculously expensive and indeed overpriced. And in general, I would not recommend paying the price that they usually offer those for a cauldron at an antique mall. You're typically at an antique mall, if you find any decent sized and decent condition cast iron cauldron, it will probably be selling in the area of $400, $500, maybe even 1,000 or $1,500. No, walk away. Believe me, if you've got, I mean, if you see something with that price, you don't have to do that. All I can suggest is just like pretty much any other cast iron pan. Namely, that if you really want yourself a cast iron cauldron, you're just going to have to look for it. Because if you're lucky, even though it might take a few years of searching, you may eventually come across the right deal for something that you can actually afford. It might be something that's pretty rusty and you may have to clean it up, but you might be able to do it. I mean, folks on this channel have seen my 15-gallon cauldron, for instance, that I was lucky enough to pay $200 for. That was definitely a once in a lifetime deal. And now I can't guarantee that you will be lucky enough to find something like that. I admit I was lucky, but you never know. That, of course, is really the thrill of the hunt. In that as I said, whether you're looking on eBay or looking at places like the Brimfield Antique Show or those highway yard sales, which we're in the time of the year for those highway yard sales. The 127 yard sale up here in New York, I found out there is one called the Route 90 yard sale. And that I believe in fact, let me look that up. Is that this weekend? Is it at the end of July? Hold on one second, if you don't mind. I'm going on to Google right at this moment. Route 90 yard sale. And spell that right, why don't I? Yard sale. Route 90 yard sale. Okay. 50-mile garage sale. And okay, try telling me some more about that. Route 90 yard sale. Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. Annual tradition, annual 50-mile garage sale. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, during the last full weekend in July. Is that this weekend? Or is it next weekend? It's this weekend. Holy crap. And I'm on the pager Saturday. Okay, well, there might always be Sunday. Yeah, this weekend is the Route 90 50-mile yard sale. What are you looking at? Oh yeah, yeah. I have it on a simmer, Rex. You want it up? Okay, okay. I just got some advice here that I need to turn up the heat on this cauldron, so that's exactly what I'm doing. All right. I was simmering it, but I guess we do have to actually boil it. All right. So anyway, I wasted that much time, but as I said, this weekend is the Route 90 yard sale. Well, maybe there's Sunday. Maybe I might be able to find a way to do that. All right. Greg Hart just scored a huge cauldron, started to clean it up, and it's copper with a cast iron handle. Well, that's interesting. I'm not sure if there would be any reason to be disappointed with it. I know next to nothing about cooking in copper, and you might want to do some research about that. But that's actually very interesting. Okay. Show us your new number three Volrath. I can't because it is in the lie tank right now. I dropped it in the lie tank and I probably won't be taking it out for at least another week or so. I posted a photo of it though on my Facebook page. Although I will say it looks almost exactly like the unmarked pan that I have. In fact, let me see. Let me get that one. Hold on one second. Take this out right now. Somewhere here. Um, no, it's here. Somewhere here it is. No, that's not it. Just the right one. Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah, got it. Here it is. Found it. Actually, several years ago, maybe even as much as 10 years ago, I acquired this one, a completely unmarked number three skillet. And these are actually fairly common. It's quite common to find a number three sized pan like this. And just last Sunday at the flea market, I acquired one that looks exactly like this, right down to the handle design. And yet it actually has the small number three of a Volrath. So it has been suggested that this particular pan here is in fact an unmarked Volrath, and you may very well be right. Once I get that one out of the lye tank and I season it, I'll be able to compare that marked number three with this unmarked number three. All right, Radagast. My grandma had a large round copper baking pan that was tin plated. Okay, I hope he opens that. Oh, yeah, I see yummy steam. Okay, you want me to open it. So let's open it right now. Yeah, as I said, I was told to bring this back up to a boil. And so that's exactly what we're doing here. I'm still keeping it covered. And in fact, I think I'm going to ask her a question right now. Question for Miss Mo. Should I leave the pot covered or uncovered? Okay, she just said leave it covered. So I'm taking her advice, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. All right. The three should be underneath sideways. Yes, you're exactly right. And that's exactly what that one I found last Sunday has. Exactly that. As I said, I do have a photo of it on my Facebook page, and you might want to just look on my Facebook page and you can see that. All right. I just saw one of those threes at a garage sale today. Left it there because I already have one. Yeah, exactly. GERD 4124. Yes, that's what I mean. These particular pans are actually very common, and they're pretty easy to find. And yet, as I said, there is a possibility it might be a Volrath. Again, I'll give it a closer examination once that other one comes out of the lye tank. If you're looking, you ain't cooking. Or as they say, a watched pot never boils. Although this one is definitely boiling, that's for sure. And I just clicked something on the mouse. There we go. Let me see what else. Okay. My exact one and unmarked number three, Cynthia Wesley. Yes, that's what I mean. That particular unmarked number three is pretty common. And so anybody who has one of those, I hope you did not pay a lot for it because they are that common. Not, not common here. All right. And still going by here. Meanwhile, on the other hand, at this point, I'd say the rice is most likely probably done at this point. But there's no reason why I couldn't just simply leave it on the very low heat that it is, and at least until about 9 o'clock or so. Boy, I'd say at this point, I'm probably going to be. This is probably going to be a shorter live video than I think some of the other ones we've done, largely because all the prep work was done in advance. All we really have to do is wait for this to finish boiling. So I'd say in that case, probably in about 20 minutes or so, this will all be done. And that's how easy it is to make a simple cauldron stew. In this case, of course, it just happens to have these Jamaican spices and ingredients, which again were red bell peppers, sliced onions, garlic, ginger, and a little bit of Scotch bonnet pepper. All right. Seems like each region has its own common pans. Well, that's certainly the case. I mean, that's why, among other things, they call those unknown pans Southern mystery skillets, the ones that have that particular shape, which largely seem to be found in the American South. On the other hand, the other famous unknown cast iron pans, the ugly hammered pans, those ones, while you can still find them in the South, they seem to be more common up here in the North. And it's thought that they may very well be from somewhere around the Midwest or so, like maybe around the Chicago area. Although, again, there's still no documentation yet to determine who actually made those particular cast iron pans. The Route 30 yard sale starts in August 7th, 8th, and 9th. Well, good luck with that. Yeah, the more I think of it, I think that's probably going to be my plan on Sunday. As soon as the pager ends at 8:30 on Sunday, normally on Sunday I go out to do my yard to do the flea market. This time I think I'm going to head out and do something on the 50-mile yard sale. Last year, I spent pretty much 6 hours, and I think I managed to cover about 15 miles out of the 50-mile yard sale. There's absolutely no way you can cover all of those. And actually, my cast iron finds last year on the 50-mile yard sale, they weren't that great, but you never know. That's where, once again, we talk about the thrill of the hunt. Right. BSR seems to break those borders and show up in other places. Yes, BSR is you can seem to find BSR just about anywhere, which is good. I mean, at least you know that when you're on the hunt, at least there's a good chance you'll be able to find something like that. Um, Here's something I haven't said in a while about the cast iron hunt. I think since since the subject now of those highway yard sales came up, and that is that I mean, really, if you are on doing the treasure hunt for vintage cast iron, or really for just about anything else, there's really something important about this. You need to enjoy the hunt. The hunting itself has to be fun. Otherwise, there's really little reason to do it. I mean, if you go to a yard sale or to an antique mall and you actually find yourself feeling disappointed because you didn't get anything, then there are two problems with that. Number one, what's the point of going out again and again only to be disappointed? Number two, I hope that also means you're not a hoarder. But on the other hand, I find myself, I like just going into an antique mall or looking through a yard sale and just looking around. And if I don't find anything, that's fine. I just like looking at the stuff. I just go and I know that there's always another place to go to. And I guess that's why I enjoyed myself on the 50-mile yard sale last year, even though I found very little. I mean, just going and looking can be fun. And that's one reason why I've enjoyed going to the Brimfield Antique Show again and again, looking at cast iron that I simply can't afford, and nor do I want to. I mean, I'm really glad to have been able to find some good bargains at Brimfield, but really just going there to look at stuff, I find to be quite fascinating as well. And that's really the thing, is that you have to have fun at these things. I mean, just going to a flea market and looking around, even if you don't find anything, just really just the experience of being there and looking around and having fun, that's really enough, or it should be enough. At least that's my opinion. All the fun is in the hunt, cleaning, and revealing. Yes, exactly. It's nice to find a treasure. It is great to find a treasure. That's why I was so excited to find that number three Volrath last Sunday. But again, that's all I found. I found a number three cast iron pan. There were actually quite a few pieces of cast iron for sale at that flea market, and I passed up on all of them except for that number three Volrath. And I feel fine about that. This is not an instance of one of those things where if I passed up on it, I would be kicking myself for the rest of my life. Quite happy about that. All right. Late getting home tonight. We've found these $50 V slicer mandolins at a lot of sale. Oh, that's also good. I think I do need to get myself a mandolin. It's like I've had one and then gave it away, and had another one and gave it away. But yeah, I mean, especially for things like making ratatouille, I think I may want to actually invest in a mandolin. Okay, close. I've got a pop up here from YouTube. All right. Al's Ghost. Hello and welcome to our channel, Al's Ghost. I'm thinking of getting a cast iron Dutch oven for baking bread. Any recommendations? Um, a standard Lodge 5-quart Dutch oven will work great for making probably 99% of of whatever bread you're baking. The other option, of course, would be a cast iron loaf pan, naturally. But you can make just about anything in those two pans. If you really want to get fancy, of course, you could get things like Vienna loaf pans, so that you can actually make, those style or those shapes of bread. But I mean, if you just want to get into just basic bread making, I would simply recommend a typical Lodge 5-quart Dutch oven. If you're lucky enough to score a vintage Dutch oven from Wagner or Griswold or BS&R, great, and go ahead and have fun using it. But a modern Lodge Dutch oven will work just fine. Also, I think a bare cast iron Dutch oven actually makes a better loaf of bread than an enamel Dutch oven. I mean, most of the cooking channels you see for making bread, they usually use enamel Dutch ovens, especially the ones that use their fancy Le Creuset Dutch ovens. But I mean, even though I'm not much of a bread maker, I have made some loaves in my bare cast iron Dutch ovens, and it works great. I have never had a loaf stick in my in a bare cast iron Dutch oven. That also includes making pizza. I don't believe I've ever had a pizza stick in my bare cast iron pizza pans. I'm sure. I understand some folks have had the sticking problem, but I have to be honest that I haven't. Maybe it's because I usually preheat it. But anyway, that would be my recommendation. Just a nice, simple, bare 5 quart cast iron Dutch oven. All right. Lawn darts from the 70s. Ooh, nice. Do you like the Dutch oven with parchment? Do you line the Dutch oven with parchment? Um, Most of the time, no. Um, Let me see. When I made a Basque burnt cheesecake, then yes, I did line it with parchment. But then again, that was just because I was making cheesecake. But in general, I found with bread, generally I have not. On the other hand, let me say again, I'm not really a professional bread maker, and I'm not really even an expert at baking bread. You might actually want to get some advice from folks who have been baking bread in cast iron much, much more than I have. So I can only call myself an amateur bread maker. In my case, I generally have not used parchment paper. Maybe a professional might say otherwise. Years of living dangerously. All right. I made a loaf of bread on Sunday in my Wagner Dutch oven, but I forgot the salt. Well, that's a different story altogether, and I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, Rocket Caver. Al, I usually don't. So there you go. Maybe I'd say the best thing to do would be to just, well, again, practice. Try it with parchment paper, try it without parchment paper, see which one you like. Maybe I'm copping out, but hey, you're the one who'll be doing the baking, not me. So I can't really speak for you. All right. So far, so good. Let's take another look here at our stew. I mean, this thing is definitely steaming nicely here, that's for sure. Looking good here on this end. I might want to ask if Miss Mo may want to take a look at this and see if it's done. If you think it's too not thick enough, I could always mix in some flour and thicken it. Oh yeah, yeah. The camera is pointing at the pot. I promise it is not pointing at you. Nothing to worry about. So let's open this up again and see what you think. I don't see how you do that. You just put a piece, took it out of the boiling water and put it on your bare hand. Yeah, but you just gave me a thumbs up. You think we're done? Okay, we're done. And there we go. All right. That means we can turn this off. Keep this uncovered now. That means I've got to put this hot lid right over here. And there we go. Also, Ghost Lodge has bread loaf pans. Oh, yeah, Ghost. Lodge has bread loaf pans. They work great. Yes, they do. Lodge, of course, has been making the standard size loaf pan for a long time. And only within the last couple of years, they've actually released a slightly larger loaf pan. All right, but there we are. We've got a Jamaican chicken stew, browned up and boiled. And so that means I can turn this off as well. And over here to go with this, here's our rice. Love making rice in my aluminum pot here because it's so easy to do. And Miss Mo is taking a look. Oh yeah, we got to fluff the rice. So let's do that right now. Still have to use. There we go. It's hot. So far so good. Jasmine rice is done. I did not use salt or butter in this though. You will have to add your own salt and butter. But there we go. And on a hot evening like this, it was very easy to do because, again, all I had to, well, as I said, Miss Mo was kind enough to do all the prep work in advance. So all I really had to do was just dump this in the pot and stand here by the hot oven and talk to everybody for the last hour or so. Is the chicken deboned or boned in? In this case, the chicken was deboned. It was chicken breast, in fact. But I myself have no problem with using bone-in chicken. Um, Although Miss Mo, she prefers it without the bones. Oh no, she does love the bones. Sorry about that. I didn't hear that clearly. It's really a matter of preference. You could make it either way. I mean, what can we say? It's a stew. Basically, you could throw whatever you want in the pot with whatever seasonings you want, and here is the result. In my case, I did in fact grow up eating chicken on the bone, so I personally would not have any problem with bone in. But again, it's always a matter of preference. How's how's Miss Mobley? Asks Rick Stumbow. Miss Mobley is actually doing pretty good. She's been spending a lot of time outside, and in fact, it's hard for me to bring her in at night. It's gotten to the point where if I even approach her or try to bend down to pick her up and bring her inside, she immediately doesn't exactly run away, but she gets out of arm's reach. However, tonight I was actually able to pick her up and bring her inside. No, don't worry. She's not hiding though. That's the thing. Even though she doesn't want to come inside, she's not hiding. I brought her inside and I closed her door, and immediately she went upstairs to my bedroom. And right now, if I understand right, she is lounging on my bed. So that means when I go to bed tonight, she will come up for her nightly pets. So she's actually doing fine. I have a flea collar on her too. So have you owned a Griswold number two skillet? Found one for $76. I have never owned a Griswold number two. My understanding is the collector's market would mean that $76 for that number two sounds like it would be a pretty good deal if you want it. I myself am not a heavy Griswold collector. I have some Griswolds, but it's been years since I've gone out of my way for a Griswold. But that's just me. Again, $76 does not sound like a bad deal for a Griswold number two. If anyone wants to chime in and give their opinion, please do so. Somebody says, I sold it for $425. Well, that certainly answers that. 10.5 Stargazer. I have a 10.5 Stargazer, and I'm quite happy with that as well. So, yeah, modern day cast iron is great. But nonetheless, here we are. As promised, here is our Jamaican stew. Yeah, definitely. Thanks to my new family, I have been again introduced to a lot more Caribbean or Caribbean cooking, and well, so far I've enjoyed it, even to the point where I definitely need to make some good jerk chicken at some point very soon. But for tonight, we are definitely able to fill ourselves up with some stew. Brown stew. Yeah, that's because we use Jamaican browning, which of course is a particular kind of browning sauce. All right, every grizz I have came to me. Yeah, I've managed to get a few good deals on Griswold, fortunately. But as I said, I generally have not gone out of my way for it. All right, but yeah, jerk chicken, my favorite. Yeah, definitely. I think maybe because I've been talking about it all evening, I'm definitely getting an urge to do some jerk chicken. That might very well come this weekend, perhaps. However, as I mentioned, even though before I've managed to, typically this live has gone for an hour and a half. Again, I think I'm going to be calling this an evening, largely because, as I said already, the prep work was done in advance, and we have everything that we want. We have our rice and we have our stew. And best of all, I've had you folks here. I've mentioned before, and I will continue to mention that again, having the folks here on this YouTube live is really what makes all of this so much fun. After all, I've spent the last hour talking and talking and talking here while standing next to a pretty hot stove here on this sweltering evening. And yet I've enjoyed myself largely because I've had you folks here for conversation. And I can only thank everybody so much for that. Yeah, dish up a plate for me. I'd love to, Radagast, when you're in the area. But until then, I think, as I said, I need to actually take the time because everybody is about to eat. I've had tons. It's good to be me. I've had tons of cast iron skillets. Personal. One of the best I have is a one-notch lodge. Well, thank you very much for the kind word. Good to be me as well. And yeah, jerk chicken soon. The stew looks beautiful. Maybe that'll be next week. I think we should probably plan on doing jerk chicken during YouTube Live next week. But until take a taste. We want to see how that hot Scotch pepper made things. Okay, you asked for it. I will indeed try a little bit of this. Here we are. And it's a little bit of chicken and a little bit of looks like orange bell pepper too. And as you can see, this is still steaming. Sorry. This was again the chicken and the bell pepper, and you can see that it is still steaming. So let's give it a try. Mm. Mm. Oh yeah. Oh, holy cow. Yes, I can taste that Scotch bonnet pepper. Holy cow, can I taste that Scotch bonnet pepper? I mean, it is definitely coating my entire mouth right now. I will say, though, it is not destroying my taste buds. It definitely, there is definitely heat to this, yes, but no, I'm not. I mean, again, it has not killed me. I haven't died from it. So, um, jerk chicken is probably about the limit of my spices. So, but I'm definitely enjoying this. I'm definitely going to be enjoying a bowl of this stew in just a few minutes. 12th grill. Holy cow. Well, I'm sure Dean Reedy, you probably know about a Facebook group called Cast Iron Grill in Hibachi World. If not, then go ahead and visit that. But thank you again then to William Hurt. Thank you for coming here tonight. And likewise as well to everybody who has been kind enough, as I said, to visit us this evening, and such as Rick Stumbaugh, yet one more time. I'm definitely going to enjoy the stew, that's for sure, and so will everyone else. And thank you to Val's Black Cat's Rule, and thank you to Greg Hart, and thank you to Clico, and Dean Reedy, and Cynthia Wesley, and Corey Clark. Yeah, better get some milk ready. Tell me about it. Yeah, this is why I love the conversations here. It's the back and forth. I encourage everybody to be sarcastic because that makes it all the more fun. Have a great night as well to Val's Black Cat's Rules and Radagast and everybody else. And thank you to all of you. We grow many kinds of peppers, some sweet and some hot. I'm definitely experiencing some of that tonight as well. Stay safe and healthy out there, everyone. And yeah, I can definitely say that as well. Everybody, take care. It is the middle of summer. It's hot. Keep hydrated, everybody. And be careful because unfortunately, there are still things going around like COVID and measles too. So do be careful. But other than that, let's enjoy ourselves this evening and keep cool. And we will do all of this all again once again next week. So thank you to everybody. And as I always like to say, see you next Wednesday.